This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 83. You must eat that frog. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you're new, or build a better real estate agent business if you're a veteran agent, I've created a free jumpstart course for you over at freeagentgift.com, freeagentgift.com. Get over there. Nice little digital course with a download that'll really help you stay organized and, more importantly, strategic. All right, what's he talking about? You must eat that frog. Well, thank you, Brian Tracy, for one of the best time management books that I've read. Brian Tracy, now an older gentleman who has done just yeoman's work trying to keep us all organized and productive, and that's been his life's work. And when I was early on in my real estate career, I stumbled into a lot of his stuff looking for that time management solution. You know, that's one of the biggest gripes that we all have as small business people. Oftentimes, we don't know what to do with the time when we're new. Then once we get it going, we don't know how to control the time. Well, he has a very good philosophy about eating that frog. And let me get into it and I'll arrive at what that really means, what that concept is. But wonderful title for a book because it makes you lean in. Ugh, who wants to eat the frog, right? But the first point here is, as I'm preparing for TRC Live, an event I run for our mastermind, self-leadership starts with doing the right things, says Peter Drucker, now passed on. But what a great book, The Effective Executive. So as small business people, we are the executive. You know, you can put your license and hang it at a big corporation, but nobody's coming for you. You know my favorite saying, if you listen to this podcast. If you don't, nobody's coming for you. You're the executive. You're it. You're the show. As small business people, we are obligated to be our own leader. So self-leadership starts with doing the right things. But what are the right things? That's the maddening part of this. I remember when I was first coming into the business, I went around looking for a plan. I had come out of corporate America. I had jobs at investment banks working for analysts who looked at all these systems in depth that major companies had. Then I went over to a venture capital company and we looked at a lot of smaller growing businesses, and the best of those were very planned out and systematic from the start. In fact, they knew how to make money from the start. All these companies that are out there borrowing enormous amounts of money with some hope that somehow they get better habits to someday make money, very difficult thing to do. So why not learn to do the right things first? But as small business people, there's not many people who have cracked the code for real estate agents. Think about it. Look, go Google real estate agent business plan. Well, I didn't Google it because back in the day when I started, you could chisel things out with a chisel and a rock and a hammer. There wasn't really a digital age quite yet. It was there, but it was, for if you were really nerdy, you knew where to find it. I didn't. I was reading books, but I just couldn't seem to find a plan. So that was frustrating coming out of all this business sophistication. So I just went at it. And I always joke, and I've told you this before, when the boys at Realty Executive, and ladies, I say boys because there was 4 of them. There was not a woman in charge, although some of the top producers were women, which I loved. They said, "What's your business plan?" And so here I was, this young entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur with all this bravado and braggadocio, and said, well, listen, why don't you just give me 2,000 business cards, a desk, a lamp, and I'll bring the Army helmet and the work ethic. And everybody laughed and off we went. My gosh, what a lunatic, right? And it worked. I went out and worked hard. I found the benefit of doing the right things early on, like open houses. I went to every agent tour where they open housed all of the properties, and I could see the inventory. I would run back, and I would have met people at open houses that were looking for something, and I could best buy what I'd seen on tour. And I started to learn how to be a great market maker, which is very few simple steps, and it worked. So those business cards were being given out like hotcakes at open houses, or if you sneeze the words real estate close enough together, I was doing the right things. And I was, well, I'll save the word. I almost gave it away what the key word here is today. But I was doing the right things, period. Okay? But next, as time goes on and you do those things that yield to a result, you know they're the right things, right? You get paid. That's what happens. That's what happens in small business. If you figure out the problem, you become part of the solution, you get paid. So you know things are going correctly. But then this concept of management becomes a really big deal. So at that point in my career, I felt like, okay, I'm doing a lot of the right things, but this is chaos. I mean, this just feels like chaos. When the phone would ring, I'd get a shudder, because I really was losing my life to this, right? And that's what I say at the opening of this whole thing. I mean, are you sacrificing your lifestyle to this business? And the answer for me was absolutely. Absolutely. The good news was I was a relatively younger guy. I had 2 kids at that point. I have 5 now. And I had 2 kids and they were young. So you could get away with a little bit more of that grinding out 7 days a week. But I just knew it wasn't right. That's not the way you build a business correctly. See, you can be doing the right things as a technician, as Michael Gerber calls it, or the salesperson, but are you really doing things right as the leader now who has a new responsibility to grow a business? See, there's a huge difference right there. Doing the right things as a technician was great. I self-led myself out of the starting blocks into being productive. But was I really leading myself to build a business, which is what I knew this was? Now, again, it's the same for all of you. Don't kid yourself. You own a business. Even if you're going to do the average 2-3 deals a year like most real estate agents, it's a business. So you have to lead yourself into organizing even those 2-3 deals as a business. Every one of them should be professionalized to the best of your ability. So now there becomes this burden of management. So I had some leadership. And I definitely had some technical skill doing the right things, and things were working. But there's this gaping hole. So this is when I went out again. Well, not that I ever stopped really, but I was again reading all sorts of magazines. And I think I was reading Realtor magazine when I came across an article written by my mentor who was talking about systems. I said, there's the thing that I had heard all throughout my career in the investment banking and venture capital world: systems. That somebody had put the right things in the right order. I heard Nito Cubane say that one time at a conference. Nito was the chairman of the Great Harvest Bread Company. And I just really thought that was excellent. Put the right things in the right order. And that's really the concept of getting up underneath a systemized approach. And the truth is, any manager's dream is to have to manage a very clear, concise system that has interlocking pieces, almost like that Henry Ford assembly line that moves left to right where you can clearly see it. So self-management, according to Drucker, demands doing things right. So you can do the right things. I have open houses here, and I have passing out business cards here, and I have digging up Best Buy properties in market making. But that wasn't doing things right per se. It was the right things, but they were all out of order and it was chaos. There was no control. I wasn't segmenting who was ready today or tomorrow. I was throwing them all into one big pile and just throwing a Best Buy property at them and seeing if somebody was there. So there was a lot of muscle. I always say that early on I was building a business on muscle and I wasn't self-managing by doing things in the right order. That's what I would really start to bring in here, is self-management is doing things in the right order, or doing the right things in the right order. That's where the manager comes in. And by the way, frankly, all you top producers that are listening to this as well, that's the biggest problem that you have. You're still building that business based on the latest, greatest idea. And I know for sure because I've seen your income statements and I've seen my own. We tend to spend too much money chasing ideas to try to stay out in front of this whole thing. And that's not good business. It's just not. You could be way more profitable on what you're already doing if you would just simply slow down and put things in the right order and manage them better. And that's why Michael Gerber's work just hit me like a freight train all of a sudden when I recognized, well, I could self-lead myself out of this self-starting spot. And I could, by doing the right things that I just discovered quickly by observing the business, but they weren't in order. So there was no manager. I'm looking around my own business and I'm saying, Danny, who's managing this? Where's the manager? Where's the organization? And where was the system? You see, a system or doing things in the right order is simply starts with a checklist. So if I do an open house, what's the checklist? If I go to the broker tour, what's the checklist for discovering that property and best buying it? If I go down my list of prospects who are trying to become clients, what's the order of things there? Who do I call first? Why? What's my offer? See, there's a lot of just simple, detailed checklists that you don't need software to do this, by the way. What you need is a good spiral notebook and a quiet library where you just think onto the page and think left to right. I do open houses here. Here's how I do them. Oops, go back to the beginning. Here's how I market myself, whatever. Start to put these moments in time where you do something in order, and then you can take those pages, you can rip them out of the spiral notebook and organize them left to right. Voila. You're beginning to manage better. It's pretty cool. But here's the big old point today. The third point here is, without execution, it's all just a dream about someday. Hear what I'm saying? Now, I have coached for many, many more tipping points than 10,000 hours at this point in time, and I've done it. It's exhausting when you want so badly for your coaching clients or the people that listen to this podcast to be successful, but to just see them struggle with execution of the basics. You see, if you go back to this whole concept of small business, any business, I could teach at this point in time these principles in the context of any business. I would just need some time talking to experts in that business who are successful to discover what the right things to do are. What are the activities that must get executed? What are the right things? And then how do you manage those in the right order, those first two beats? But then to look at that person and their team or their company and watch to see if they execute the right things in the right order. That's it. It's almost like going to a professional event, whether you're sitting in the balcony at the symphony and you're looking down at the orchestra and you're noticing whether the first chair violinist is executing the right way, or does something sound even to your untrained ear out of whack. You can sense when execution is out. Go to a football game, sit up high and watch the whole thing. That's why I like seats that are just above all the action. I love to watch the execution and the flow of the game, and I can instantly see, even if it's not my sport or not my passion, I can instantly see now after all these hours when something wasn't executed correctly or at all. You ever seen that athlete that's sort of sitting there, hands stuck out to the side, the bewildered look? Whoa, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Not true, especially at a professional level. You know exactly what you were supposed to do, but for some reason, you tripped all over execution. Now, I could open up a huge can of worms, and I'll try to go into this as succinctly as possible. As I think about a couple of folks that I coach currently, I think about the execution problem, and I tried to figure out the why. It's not so much that you want to stick your own nose or somebody else's in, but you didn't do this, but you didn't. It's really tough, by the way, to be a coach like that. I have to have people that really trust me, that understand there's never a personal attack. You're trying to get through these weird paradigms and these things that have people stuck, and you have to almost sometimes fight through. You have to punch your way through their exterior, which is all the noise that who knows where it comes from. It could come from childhood. It could come from an event that just happened recently. It could come from fear. There's all these weird things. But I keep coming back to this whole concept that maybe we've just gotten soft. Maybe, and I mean this as human beings. I don't mean this, my generation, we walked 17 miles in the snow just to get a cup of coffee with no shoes. That's not this. What this is more, and I learned this recently, I'm a big fan also of David Goggins recently, who went from 300 pounds to Navy SEAL fit. And there's just something so dang basic and correct about his message that the brain, the animal brain that we were born with, is wired to help us survive, which means it's going to take you through that hierarchy of needs, right? Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you haven't seen it in a while, go check it out. Yeah, there's some real basic needs. Like, how about some food? How about some water? How about some shelter? If you really think about those things, food, water, shelter. Hey, by the way, shelter is housing. That's the business we're in. We're in one of these really basic things. But as agents, we need those things too. Food, water, shelter. And so the minute we feel like in the back of our head somewhere that animal brain is like, oh, you're good, man. You made enough to pay the rent for the shelter. You made enough to put some water on the table. You made enough to put some food in your belly today. You're good, man. Shut it down. Just shut it down. It's good. And that's what Goggins talks about, is that this is kind of this 40%, if you've heard it also as the thermostat control of the animal brain. See, the brain that's very animalistic is not looking to thrive, it's looking to survive. So once it's good for the day, it's telling you to shut down. Why is it telling you to shut down? Don't burn those calories too fast. We just put the water in the body. We just put the food in the brain. And, it's all in there. We're feeding it. We can survive. We can get up tomorrow and think about how to do it all over again. So we end up in this sort of, repetitive cycle that we're stuck in to just survive every day. I get how hard that is to get beyond that. So you're going to do the bare minimum. And quite frankly, in the real estate agent business, what I've found is that puts things all out of order for most people. I'll give you an example. They'll go out and they'll buy some leads that are too much money, and they'll try to skim some of the cream off the top. They'll get one deal to proclaim, the animal brain will say, see, we were right. We spent that money. We got that deal. They'll never look at the rest of it at all, and they'll stop executing anything else that threatens survival. So the irony here is, execution of a better plan. My whole endeavor here at the TRC to try to push you beyond this animalistic thermostatic situation and push you into this place where you're better. It's a better life. You have to break through this thing. Goggins talks about going from this 300-pound out-of-shape guy to grinding himself down to a fine powder by doing these crazy physical things to get beyond his fear, get beyond his insecurities, so he could execute a much greater plan in his life. And he has. And he says he's been up on stage with MIT geniuses, quote unquote, who were saying these things can't be done, but yet there he sat. So the idea is maybe we have to go outside of our businesses and look at what kind of a soft life are we living with this animal brain? Are we slowing it all down? Are we making excuses of time? And I don't have this time. I hear that all the time, by the way. I don't have enough time. Come on, 168 hours. And you got plenty of time to, eat, sleep, bathe, all the basics. And there's just all this white space. What do you mean you don't have time? You don't want to take the time, and your animal brain is shutting you down, saying you're good. So you retreat to whatever doesn't require a lot of calories. Ever watch some brain-numbing TV? Doesn't take up too many calories to sit on a couch and do that, right? Ever take an extra nap that the body's not necessarily looking for? It's just that you were so sedentary, you fell asleep. You know what you're sacrificing in those moments? Execution of the plan to thrive. Let me state that again. When you do all of these sedentary lifestyle things, it's because the animal brain is saying, we're good for today. Take it easy. I'll burn extra calories. We got to do this again tomorrow to survive. Goggins argues that's 40%, and I'm with him. I agree. Just doesn't take that much. So you have to get up off that couch. You got to go exercise. You got to drink the green juice. You got to stop eating all these fatty foods. You have to stop doing these things that make it even worse that you're feeling sedentary, slowing you down more because it's at the sacrifice of execution of a better plan. So how do you do that? Well, here's the last point here today. We go all the way back to my good friend there, Brian Tracy, in his book. You got to eat the ugliest frog first. So if getting your mind right, for example, to pick up the phone and call people that you don't know and make an offer of proper guidance to help buy or sell or access to the information via MLS, whatever offer you come up with, and it makes you feel like that takes energy, because it does. Folks, thriving takes energy. You have to get yourself up and ready to go out there proactively and help somebody else get to the next level. That takes energy beyond just survival, especially when it comes to trying to help people that you don't know. Why do you think everybody says, well, I just do referrals and by referral only and all that stuff? I'm not knocking Brian Buffini, by the way. I know that's his tagline. I just think it's great, but go look at his stuff. Go look at anybody. They're not asking you to sit down on a couch and hope the referral jumps up into the pan and fries itself up and you get paid. They're saying go knock on doors. Go drop something by. Say hello, proactive, eating the frog, getting face to face with people. And by the way, eating the frog first is this concept. If you got up every day and you actually looked at all these ugly things that you had to do, including eating frogs, what do? There's 5 of them on the table. Oh my gosh, I got to do this. I got to do this. You go right up to the biggest, fattest, ugliest one and you eat that frog first. And again, please, this is not a literal podcast. It's the thing you don't want to do. So if it's picking up the phone and calling a client who's absolutely irate because you didn't do something or they perceive you didn't do something, do that first. That's your client. Do something first. Take the punch. Get your teeth knocked out. Apologize. Take responsibility. That's eating a frog. Then you got to go spend a couple of hours on the phone calling expireds, calling for sale by owners who think we're not worth anything, calling people where somebody has died and maybe there is or isn't real estate. Yes, that takes calories. Yes, that takes a whole other level. But you got to go eat that frog first, because that's the only way to get there to thriving and getting beyond this business where we're just stuck. Hey, folks, look, you see statistics all the time in the real estate agent business. The typical agent, there's no such statistic as the typical agent. What does that mean? There's a middle number and an average number, and it's somewhere around 2 to 3 deals a year. Now, if you're a part-timer, God bless you if that's what you do, and that's a good part-time income, but you do it professionally. And you do it correctly, just as if you were spending more time. But if you're not, and you're stuck in this place where you're just barely surviving, this is your issue. This whole podcast is about your issue. Execute the dang plan. And shame on those of you that learn it, know it, and don't do it. You got to win that fight. You stop retreating and I got to, hide under the desk for a couple of months and I got It ain't going away, folks. You got to execute. It's a key point here, all right? So let me go back through this. You must eat that frog, meaning how we build up to that. Recognize that self-leadership starts with doing the right thing. So learn that from podcasts like this and others where people have been doing it for a long time and know what the right things are. Self-management demands doing those things in the right order. Once you start to see it, put them in order. Lay it out on a table and see it in the right order. Next point. But all of that without execution is just a dream about someday I'm going to miraculously get over myself and I'm going to do those things. So you do that by waking up every day, no matter how tired you are on that Monday morning with sleep in your eyes, and you're going to eat the frog first. Call the irate client. Pick up the phone, call the person you don't know. Do the open house on a Sunday when it's beautiful outside. By the way, I'm looking out the window while I'm doing the podcast. It's gorgeous outside, and I'm in a basement with 2 lights on and a green screen behind me while I record this. Yes, do it when it hurts. All right? So to chunk this up here, I'll summarize the key point. Once you know the right things to do, you must put them into a manageable plan. Then you must eat the frog of execution every day and keep eating those frogs until they taste delish. All right? All right. Remember, you can take immediate action and get started in the right direction with our free simple business plan over at freeagentgift.com. There's a download in there of the whole model here where you'll see the right things in the right order in a global way. And then you can listen to this podcast for some micro assistance. And I'm also moving forward towards creating a membership here where we take the notes from this show, we organize them, we'll start a newsletter. I'm going to do whatever it takes to help you get this right. All right? Also, please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on any insights each time we upload an episode. We also broadcast our live sales training calls. I try to help you live. I give it away. Execution. How to execute on the phone. I give it away in an eavesdrop. You can listen to it. Please help yourself. So Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 o'clock ET. So remember, turn on the page and channel notifications and get to know your app on your phone. Look for it. When the little bell comes up on YouTube and the Facebook says, the Facebooks, I'll be okay, says he's live. Come on in. Listen. Ask questions. I would love you to engage me, okay? So turn them on for the Realty Classroom. You won't miss those reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content with other entrepreneurial spirited real estate agents. You know what that means? There's other people out there like you that want to go from surviving to thriving. Share this stuff with them, and maybe that little mini mastermind with you and them will be a good step in the right direction, all right? Hey, thanks for listening, and remember, I say it all the time, nobody's coming for you, so go get to work on your own business. I'll see you in the next episode.